Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new special event here at the Sim Racing Collective, known as, of course, the Cross Car Shakedown. Brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing. This is an event which is a celebration of the all-new 2026 Season 1 content update. Indeed, it's an update full of paid content, including the likes of the Miami Grand Prix circuit, the Adelaide Street circuit, and also the Porsche 992.2 Cup car. However, there's also plenty of free content arriving on the service. And in the theme of Australia, firstly, we do have a complete overhaul of the Bathurst Racing Circuit, which is where we held our last special event. And that was, of course, the Volkswagen Beetle Rallycross car over the mountain. And what an event it was, only the best part of a month or so ago. And definitely, if you haven't checked that out, we recommend you check that out after tonight. But where's the continuity? Where's the theme then? Well, I said an Australian circuit in Bathurst, and I said a Rallycross car. And in the all-new 2026 Season 1 update, we have a new layout of a rather famous Australian circuit, known none other than Winter Motor Raceway. In fact, it's so fresh off the press, the Rallycross layout of this circuit, that we don't even have a circuit map for it. That's yet to be provided. However, what we can tell you is it's an absolute gem of a Rallycross circuit, and we're going to see our drivers take to it today. 1.16 kilometres in length, it's short, it's sweet, and it's going to deliver some absolutely incredible racing, there's no doubt about it. And continuing on the theme from our last event, well, of course, we do have a new car in the Rallycross domain. It is none other than the FII Cross Car, a car powered by a Yamaha MT-09 engine, the same 850cc engine that you'd find in one of the Ford Legends machine on the iRacing simulator. It only provides 120 horsepower, but when mated to a chassis weighing in at only 345 kilograms, that's plenty of power for a nippy little car that in real life is used as the entry gateway into Rallycross, and indeed it's going to be represented in a similar way here in iRacing, as well the founding piece of content that you can get your hands on for free to go racing in Rallycross events on the simulator. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight, available only, of course, on YouTube at our official channel, and that is the Sim Racing Collective YouTube channel. Search for the Sim Racing Collective or TSRC, and you can be tuning in there and joining the many who tune in, week out, and enjoying all the racing action that's available at TSRC. In the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX121 or Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all your racing action as it unfolds tonight. Speaking of which, our times in UK times, that's Greenwich Mean Time, GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC. We've got a packed schedule here, but it's going to come quick, thick, and fast, because as we'll be seeing very shortly, our drivers will be making their way into qualifying. They'll be at 8:05 this evening in about 3 minutes' time, of which they'll have 3 laps to try and put the best possible lap on the board. Then we have 3 races back-to-back. All 3 of the races are 18 laps in length, or 15 minutes in totality, whichever expires first. We're expecting the laps to expire first, given the lap around here is in the region of 41 seconds, perhaps sub-41 for the very fastest of our drivers out there, if we're not including the Joker lap as well. But the point being that we are expecting our drivers to absolutely go hammer and tongs for all 3 races, the first of which will be at 8:10 this evening, after which we'll then head to race number 2 immediately after at approximately 8:25, and then we'll have our third and final race at 9:22. So a packed schedule, all new content up for grabs as well. Let's take a look at it and let's enjoy a brilliant night of racing. And as we come into this night, well, let's talk a little bit about our host venue, because it is the Rallycross layout of Winton Motor Raceway, located near the locality of Winton in the Victoria state of Australia. And well, it's a circuit which has stood the test of time, whether it be road racing or Rallycross, having opened in 1961, and it has played over the course of its extensive 64-year history to a wide variety of domestic, national and international series, including V8 supercars all the way through to Australian Rallycross, which is the premier series for the Rallycross layout of this circuit. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just the brilliant simulator that continues to get better week in, week out, year in, year out, but also the absolutely brilliant circuit maps that are included within it, and we really do get to see the circuit in its full glory here. Albeit, our drivers will only be used in a small segment of the road racing circuit, as you'll see they're running there all the way from turn number 1 before they deviate rather quickly, either to the Joker lap or through to turns 2, 3, 4 and 5, which is really the dirt track, if you will, and then they'll loop back off of turn number 6 and find themselves going back onto the road circuit from turn 7 through to 9 to complete and lap and do it all over again. It's a very short circuit, and the Joker lap is highlighted in orangey yellow there, is essentially a good portion of lap which is added onto the tarmac. Indeed, you don't have too much dirt out there if you're on a Joker lap, but if you do take the normal lap through turns 2, 3, 4 and 5, you'll find it is a very tight and technical dirt layout through there, and that's something our drivers will need to very quickly get used to. But as we come into tonight, a quick reminder of the rules. If you haven't read up on them already, well, we can explain them to you, because you may have some question marks with regards to how we're planning to set the grids. Now, setup-wise, drivers are required to drive the FI Cross Car with a fixed setup that's been provided by the Sim Racing Collective Administration ahead of this event. Car damage has been switched off. We do respect the fact that the majority of our drivers do not have that much rallycross experience, if at all, and therefore this is going to be a huge learning experience for our 22 or so competitors. Qualifying-wise, a closed qualifying format shall be used, which means all our drivers take to an isolated instance of the circuit. They don't have to worry about stepping on each other's toes. Meanwhile, as for our races, well, the race 1 grid shall be set based on the results of qualifying. That's a given. When we go to race number 2, we take the results of race number 1 and we completely invert them. So whoever finishes as the winner, they start at the very back of the field for race number 2. Meanwhile, the lowest placed driver who finished the race starts on pole. And we rinse and repeat that for race number 3 based on the results of race number 2. So another full reverse grid. Just to keep things interesting. We are expecting our drivers to do 2 Joker laps in each race, otherwise they will be disqualified, and we'll keep you updated on that where we can, and there are no instant point limits, so therefore our drivers are allowed to make mistakes, they're allowed to make contact, so long as they don't intentionally try to knock each other off the road, albeit we don't normally see that at the Sim Racing Collective, to be fair, and therefore this should be an absolutely fun event, much like the event at Mount Panorama in the Volkswagen Beetles. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're all here for the racing, and well, let's take a look at some drivers who are out there right now looking to go for gold to a pole position, as Kieran Sharp goes on to his first flying lap. And as he roars his way in towards turn number 1, well, there you get to see the fact that he'll peel off to the right. He won't be allowed to go onto the Joker there. They have to complete the full lap for qualifying. They're not allowed to cut it short. And as he weaves his way over the jump and then down in towards turns 4 and 5, well, the apex speeds are going to get slower through here. As it gets a bit tight, he's got to avoid the tyre barriers and then launch his way all the way up in towards turn number 6. And we'll have the opportunity to catch up with Kieran in the build-up to tonight. And he was saying to me the fact he doesn't have too much experience with regards to rallycross cars. However, he's found this car to be very nimble, and therefore he's getting to toes of it quite quickly, and let's see what he can do as he roars his way across that timing line. Albeit we do have a few other laps coming in immediately, and it does look as though Sharp has gone third for his first outing, with Oswald Deston making his way all the way to provisional pole on a 40.737, so a good lap there. He is the best part of 800ths faster than Jamie Nuttall, and I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter what you put Jamie in, whether it's a road car or a rallycross car, he seems to be an incredibly talented driver on the simulator. He's always able to find a lot of pace, either over a single lap or over the entirety of a race, and we're seeing that again here today, right now as he comes towards the end of his second flying lap. And as he weaves and winds his way towards the end of it, onto the start-finish straight he goes, and that, of course, is the long circuit start-finish straight as well. As he makes his way on through, he goes on to one final lap of the circuit, and, well, we get an opportunity to jump on board with one of our drivers as we ride on board with Janos Wenzel from Germany, as he then makes his way onto his third and final qualifying lap. So ducking his way into turn number 1, drifting his way through in 4th gear as we briefly lose him and he rematerialises. Then to turn number 2, and as he glides his way onto the dirt track, you'll see that carries a lot of speed initially through 3 and then over the jump. Keep the car straight as possible, bring it over to the left to open up turns 4 and 5. Right into left he goes, bounce over the initial curb and then drifts his way through. Will make his way now in towards turn number 6. Here it's all about a late apex approach because it's a very tight corner, but he makes his way out very nicely, and Wenzel now comes through the final corner completely sideways there as you'd expect, and now into the last 2 bends of 8 and 9, and as he comes left into right here, keeping it as straight as possible to carry the speed, and then goes to the timeline. A lovely lap from Wenzel, and that's going to see him come across that line, and he holds on to 6th there with a 41.298. Well done to him. Can anybody dethrone him from that one? Well, we do have William Chandler out there at the moment. And the British driver here heads towards the timeline. What's he going to be able to do this time around? And it's a black flag, so that lap's not going to be valid. He's picked up a slowdown, and therefore Chandler will not be able to go any further in this qualifying session. We do have there Cash Culp as well, and the Cash Culp racing driver in the end parks up and goes to the barrier, albeit he'll be happy with what he's been able to achieve, I suspect. He started in 13th in the number 1. Bobby Moss has parked up there with a lap available to him, but he's not going to conduct it. And then we do look to Luca Gentile as the Italian driver here here right now. Seems to be very casually making his way around. Yet to get a valid lap on the board. The same for Gareth Ronda. So both drivers still trying to find some time, albeit Ronda's in the pit lane, having been disqualified from qualifying, it would seem. Meanwhile, Gentile coming across that line and will go 21st, albeit 6.2 seconds off for the overall pole time set by Luca Burke. And well, for Gentile right now, he's going to try and find a bit more time out there on his final lap. But remember, as I mentioned earlier, most of these drivers have very limited rallycross experience, so this is going to be a bit of a baptism by fire, if you will, in learning the car. Albeit you could say they did drive a rallycross car for those who participated in the Beatles Over the Mountain event, or the Battle of the Beatles. However, that was on a road course with a rallycross car. Here, we actually have a rallycross circuit with both road and dirt elements. So it is a little bit of a different story as Gentile makes his way towards the timeline. And, well, something tells me here this is not going to be too big of an improvement. However, I think he will find a little bit of time and may get a bit closer to Paolo Maniti, his fellow countryman, as he does. In fact, he gets within 8 tenths for 45.588. We also look to Vincenzo Stagnito, who's parked up there. The Sim Drivers EU driver not going any further. And, well, that is going to be qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, because Bobby Moss is parked up and the checker flag comes out. It's time to head to the grid. So as all our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll then line up for our first race of today. And well, it does seem as though we have 11 cars in this race. So we're going to have Luca Burke starting on pole position there. A lovely bit of work from the Slovenian driver, a 40.669, head of Noah Asbordeston, the Nova Motors esports driver who lines up 700ths behind. Then it's Kieran Sharp who starts third for Team TSRC ahead of Oscar Saristo, with the Finnish driver just outpacing Guillermo Hamling, and the Luxembourgish driver then being followed up by William Chandler. Cash Culp starts in 7th place on that full throw of the grid, ahead of none other than Byron Forrest II. And then we have Christian Barker and David Barnes on row at number 5, with Luca Gentile completing that starting order. But the lights are going on, ladies and gentlemen. It's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights! And it's lights out and away we go here as our drivers roar away down towards turn number 1. And as they do, well, it looks like right now Asbordeston's had a better start compared to Burke, and he moves into lead immediately. And well, we'll see some joker laps immediately deployed by drivers there as they make the way onwards. And we'll keep you apprised as to when drivers complete both of their joker laps. And you can tell that in the time tower because we will have that visibility of the little joker symbol which will glow once they've completed 2 joker laps. But that does mean, of course, we'll see a bit of a shift in the field as Burke will take the track position at the front of the field. Head of Oscar Saristo is also taking the joker lap, and Asbordeston just tucks in behind there, a bit further back. All drivers right now keeping it nicely together as they make the way towards the end of the lap. Nobody getting it wrong so far, everyone keeping it right, which is lovely to see for an opening lap of this race, and long may it continue. But that's one lap completed. I think we might be squeezing in another, so they've already put 1 joker lap on the board. We'll keep you apprised when another one goes in, but right now all drivers make the way onto a valid lap, albeit one driver does go onto a joker lap there, and we'll see who that was. I think that's David Barnes. In fact, it's not David Barnes. I think that's Cash Golp who's done that. And well, as they make the way into the weave, well, Culp's not on the joker lap either, so I think it is a whole variety of drivers here swapping things around. And there's the man who's been able to move forward. As meanwhile, Byron Forrest II here, he looks to go battling with David Barnes, but goes a little bit deep, and then he runs out wide. Oh, goodness me. Well, thankfully, that little board there is not solid, and therefore he's able to go through it. Otherwise, the 824 car, I think, would have been missing its rear left tyre, and with it, the whole suspension system. But thankfully, that wasn't to be as he drops to the very back of the field. But as he now gets himself back together, he'll give himself another opportunity. Christian Barker had a bit of a moment on the previous lap. Oh, that's a car round, and that's got very well there for David Barnes, as meanwhile Luca Gentile takes evasive action and evade onto another standard lap. So he's able to take that evasion and make it work out just about as they head onto this next one. And well, we are on what is lap number 3 of plenty more to come. And in terms of those lap numbers, well, we do bring them up on screen very shortly for you, ladies and gentlemen. See them in full order in the top centre of your timing tower. And we are now onto lap number 4 as Luca Burke and Noah Asbordeston are continuing to push each other right now, and Asbordeston is getting back in the fight here as these two keep each other incredibly honest, and we ride aboard with the second place man. Now, of course, it's one thing to do a good lap in qualifying. To stay this close over a race distance, meanwhile, it's a completely different story here as he's really trying to work the car hard for Nova Motors Esports right now. Something tells me Asbordeston at this point, well, his full process is going to be simply about trying to make sure he doesn't let the gap emerge to Burke. Both of them have completed 1 joke lap already. They will have another they'll need to complete, but there might be some tactics here as to when they complete it, and if so, we'll see what will happen, because if they both go at the same time, then it will really be a pack pair between them as they run the way around. Meanwhile, if we do see them decide to split, that could definitely see a change of track position, and it's all going to be about who can make the break on the other and stay close. But right now, Oswald Eston definitely continued to chase Burke, but no change. Kieran Sharp, meanwhile, he goes onto his Joker, and as the 455 driver carries on, you can see that the fact a much quicker run by comparison. Some rallycross circuits, the Joker lap is longer, others it's shorter, but here it is definitely shorter by comparison to the standard lap, and Sharp moves into third, but knowing he's got more to do, as the only one who's yet to complete one Joker is none other than Culp, who's making his way through turns 6, 7, 8 and 9, and he's doing so quite happily at the moment, knowing that he's lost some places, but I think he's leaving his Jokers to the very end here. He's playing his hand very well, and I think if he feels they can keep this pace together, he may be able to steal away a top 5 come the end of this race. And well, we just had word in our ear, ladies and gentlemen, the other drivers who you saw in qualifying, they are going to form the second heat race. Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a mix-up. We thought we were going to see all 20 or so drivers on a single grid, but it turns out we're going to have 2 separate races, and then I believe the top drivers from the 2 races might be pulled together for the final race of the day. So we do apologise for a little bit of confusion there, as we've got several drivers who are currently sat in the pit lane wondering what's going on. But meanwhile, as Oswald Eston there makes a bit of an error and almost hits the wall, the Nova Motors eSports driver falls backwards, and Luca Burke right now is definitely started to use his advantage, but Oswald Eston immediately reacts here and goes on to his second Joker lap. Now he's doing this intentionally to try and get ahead of Burke. He wants that track position if he can help it, because then he can slow Burke down. That's the plan. The only problem, of course, is the fact that with that error he has lost effective race time, so to get ahead, but Burke will now know if he goes onto his Joker immediately after this, he will most likely leap back ahead. So I have to keep an eye out for that, because Oswald Eston has now completed 2 Jokers. Meanwhile, Burke has only completed 1. So our leader is at a theoretical disadvantage here. But one thing I can tell you is they've created an advantage over the third place battle, as that is Oscar Savristo pushing hard here to chase down Sharp, and they're doing very well, the pair of them, to carry on this pace ahead of Guillermin Hamling. The Luxembourgish driver not quite close enough to get involved, but he's still staying in attacking distance here in the number 7 as they come through, and Hamling goes on to another Joker. This will be his second and final Joker. Kieran Sharp decides to do the full lap, and meanwhile we can see Savristo's also doing the same here. However, it must be said that Kieran Sharp in fact had a very good lap this time round, and he doesn't lose out to Hamlin, he stays ahead. So Sharp right now definitely getting it together on that one, albeit Hamlin's putting a lot of pressure on him, but it's to no avail as they weave and wind their way through these corners. And all the way at the back of the field, meanwhile, we do have Christian Barker, the Afghanistani international driver. Well, the number 67 driver here right now definitely had a bit of a challenging race, but he's in the back of David Barnes. Oh, goodness me, that was a bit of a nasty knock there to the barrier, and Barker in the end having to keep it together as Barnes is struggling a little bit as well. And Luca Gentile, meanwhile, the slowest driver in qualifying, well, he's opted just to stay out of trouble, and that philosophy is actually working out quite nicely for him, as right now the 2 drivers behind are more busy fighting each other and pointing it on the road rather than putting pressure on him. And that's what he needs to do correctly here, is just avoid making any mistakes, and he might be able to bring home what would be a great result, as Barnes then runs a bit wide, collects it just in the nick of time, and all right now the number 6 driver falls down a little bit further. But with that, we need to take a look back at some moments earlier on in the race, as Barker going very sideways there as they go with the jump. And well, will it be Barnes, will it be Barker? And I think Barnes there hitting the rev limiter on the jump, and unfortunately missing his upshift as he made his way onto the stretch. So therefore that's going to put him back behind, but he definitely was looking threatening there versus Barker. But these 2 right now keeping each other honest, which is absolutely brilliant to see, as we take a look back at some moments from earlier on in the race, including what happened to William Charnot on lap number 5. Oh, goodness me, no we won't be, as Luca Gentile gets it wrong, carried out the final corner, and there was contact there with Barnes, who came soaring on free, had no time to react. Barnes with the damage, the car goes spinning off the rope. I think the suspension damage there for the number 6 driver, because that car is struggling to point in a straight line at the moment. I think he's got some damage to other suspension rods. That's not going to help hitting the tyre barrier. It's quite firm, and it's costing the time. Meanwhile, Luca Burke at the very front of the field, well, he's gone for his second Joker lap here, and he's going to get back ahead of Noah Esbodeston. As we can see, the number 18 falls back behind. So remember we said that Burke had the strategic advantage. We've used it now, and Burke will take the lead this race, and by 9 tenths, can he now run away with this? He's trying to break the tyres as quickly as he can, albeit the toe is not worth as much perhaps as of other circuits, but what we can see is that right now Berg is definitely in control of this race. They're not allowed to do any more jokers. They've done their two, both of these drivers, and therefore now it all comes down to avoiding any errors. And on the dirt section, on the normal lap, it has been the Slovenian driver who's been slightly quicker than the Briton, albeit as Osbald is going to continue to do every he can to stay close, but something tells me that this might be going the way of the leader, although as soon as I say that, well, Osbald Eston's had a brilliant middle section of the lap, and in fact he has closed that gap down by 2 tenths, so it's not over yet. I think this has given him a little bit more motivation to try and find an extra couple of hundredths lap or an extra couple of attempts, and he may have just unlocked that pace. But elsewhere, battling is calming down as it's now our two leaders staying close to each other. And well, Burke right now knows he can't shake the man who's following him as we look back from the rear of number 13, albeit we can see it's drifted along. Oh, goodness me, and that is David Barnes getting it wrong. And well, blue flags there, and indeed, blue flags very difficult to respect in drifted machinery. You've got to be very patient. But in the end, Burke right now, well, he's definitely showing his way forward, albeit that was a very big near miss there for your leader. And as he rolls his way onto the tarmac once again, well, it's going to be the Briton right now who's definitely got himself in, well, he's got Burke in his sights and he's looking to try and pull the trigger on a move with only 5 laps to go. But with that, we take a look back to some moments earlier on in the race, including this for William Chandler. Now, at the time, this was Chandler making his way on around, as we briefly caught the scenic view there. And as he did so, made his way in towards turn number 6 and found some contact there with Culp. So, as he emerged from the corner, bit of contact, and that is what led to the two having a bit of a moment. But unfortunately for Chandler, he was the worst off of the two. We had this for David Barnes on lap number 6. He's already had a bit of difficulty in this race, and the British driver made his way in towards turn 8. And in the end, the car snapped on him, and he made his way to the grass. So, doing a bit of rallycross of his own in a 360-degree pirouette style. How that's not the racing line, unfortunately, for David Barnes. And then we had this for Kieran Sharp, only moments ago on lap number 11. He was, at the time, running in the hunt for third versus Oscar Saristal, but the Flying Finn was getting ahead of him. Oh, Sharp hitting the tyre barrier there, and a double whammy for the Team TSRC driver, and that has dropped him behind Guillaume Hamling, and well, unfortunately, he's dropped all the way to 5th, but the car is still in a respectively good condition. But back to your live screens we come, and as we do, well, here's your leaders, and as Modeston right over the bag, he rides onto the rear of his rival. There's contact between the two of them, and he's into the wall. He's into the barriers, the Nova Motorsports eSports driver, and goodness me, what a nightmare moment. Burke holds on, but that definitely, you could not make that up how that's happened. And well, as he holds on now, Luca Berger, we're hoping there's no damage on the car. They have put between themselves Byron Forrest II, the American driver there who has fallen the lap down, but definitely that's going to be a bit of a controversial moment as Kieran Sharp here right now trying to find his way Mars Gentile, and oh goodness me, Gentile gets it rolling. Sharp is collected and sent to the tyre barrier, and the Team TSRC driver in the end, well, he's going to be absolutely fuming with that one. However, he'll look back at it afterwards and realise that perhaps there was nothing else that could be done, and that's the thing, when it all happens in the heat of the moment, you've definitely got a few swear words underneath your helmet, but afterwards you have to calm down, see what happened, and then take it from there. But Burke and Osbald Eston are back together then, battling, and we've only got 2 more laps to go as they go to lap number 17, and we ride aboard here with the man in second place right now who's absolutely on the attack. They have gapped the rest of the field by 13.5 seconds. They've used up all their joker laps, and now it's going to be a fight as there's contact between the two of them in towards turn number 2, and it does send Burke wide, but he rejoins, but he cuts the apex of turn number 3, and with that, Burke will have to serve a slowdown penalty. He'll have to serve it soon because otherwise it becomes a drive-through penalty. He hits the tyre back, and for Luca Burke, well, I think he might have been a little bit upset by the contact from Osbald Eston, but definitely a bit of a rivalry there between them. Whilst this is a one-off fun event, I can tell you right now, these two are taking it seriously. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. We always love to see drivers giving it their all, and both have not come here to finish second. They've both come here to win. As Osbald Eston then leads this race, white flag waves. We're on to lap 18 of 18, and Luca Burke right now is not close enough to get involved. Meanwhile, Oscar Saristo hold on to third as Hamling is making his way through as well, and I think that is the car there of David Barnes that's gone to the barrier, and oh goodness me, another knock to the barrier there. The number 6 driver right now having an absolute nightmare day at the office, but hopefully in the racing later on today it might be a better story. But we look to Kieran Sharp. He's still fighting here with Cash Culp. Culp's close with him, but as they make the way to the corner, contact between Sharp there and Gentile, and Culp will come through. As meanwhile, your race leader heads towards the line, and Vanart Asbald-Eston, it was hard fought, but he celebrates, he takes victory here in race number 1 of the day, ahead of Luca Burke, who finishes second, but what a fight between those two. And then it will be Oscar Saristo, who rounds off the podium for race number 1 with a brilliant effort there, a bit low in the end. Oh, goodness me, hits the barrier, but goes spinning across the finish line, so he goes across in style. He won't get any bonus points for that, but he'll get our respect. And then we do see Guillaume Hamling cross the line there in 4th place, ahead of Cash Culp, who, if you said to him at the start of this race you're going to finish in 5th, I think he would have believed you, but he's going to believe it now, because he's taken that 5th place, ahead of Kieran Sharp, who then in the end will make his way to that line just ahead of William Chandler, in a car that's definitely been knocked, bruised and beaten, albeit the damage does self-repair over time, because damage is switched off. William Chandler will take that 7th place, and it'll be Byron Forrest the 2nd, ahead of Christian Barker, with Luca Gentile and David Barnes finishing laps down respectively. And your 11 starters, that's how they finish on this race, and we immediately, I believe, make our way into our second race. So this is how they line up then from the other starting order of our other 11 drivers, and it is Jamie Nuttall on pole position ahead of Adam State, with Janos Wenzel and Felix Smoggy on row number 2. We then have on row 3 Stephen Hutter and Vincenzo Stagnito ahead of Matt Smith and Andrew Pike. Now it'll be Bobby Moss and Paolo Maniti who round off your top 10, and starting 11th, it is Gareth Ronda. But that's a quick run through the grid, ladies and gentlemen, because we are already waiting for Janos Wenzel to take a slot on the grid. But this is our second of our 3 races today. They're all in position, so without further ado, let's look down to the circuit side and see how they get away. Because in race 2, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go here for the second time today as they roar the way down towards turn number 1. And right now all these drivers scrambling together here as Adam State makes contact to the rear Nuttall. That's going to enable Wenzel to move into the lead on the dirt track as immediately there State decides to take the joke lap in order to offset it. But making the way onto the dirt here, all these drivers together right now, it's going to be close, it's going to be furious as they roll their way to turns 4 and 5. This is not a place to go too wide. Contact elbow to elbow there. 3 wide on through. Who goes to the barrier? That is Matt Smith who's elbowed out. In fact, no, it's Bobby Moss, and there comes Stephen Hutter as well. And through the corners they make their way. In fact, Hutter was the one who came off the worst of all that. He's been ejected all the way down to 10th. As we can see, they're fighting with Matt Smith now, and Smith runs out a bit wide, and the English driver now trying to get it back together once again. But brilliant battle between them. But there's even more to come here as they make their way onto another lap. Adam State, of course, have taken that joker lap, converting what was a difficult open lap to a joker. So therefore, he's moved back into second as we've got Vincenzo Stagnito. He's moving onwards, and a little bit further around is Jamie Nuttall, who's decided and to take a joker lap nice and early here in order to be able to regain track position, albeit he winds his way now through. You can see that's going to bring you right back into the mix of the top 5, but remember there's 2 joker laps, so they have to use them tactically to move them up and down the order. And when's the right time to use a joker lap? That's the big question that many will be asking, and we did see in the first race that it really was the early joker laps of the leaders that pulled them away for the rest of the field, and it meant our top 2 lead battle in the end all came down to the usage of the joker at the right time, as Adam State, looking up the inside there of Nuttall, can't quite find a move at the moment, but he's definitely bearing his fangs here as State and using those tight lines for Whipham and Racing. And I do believe that livery there in reference to one of the little play cars that you have in the United Kingdom for toddlers or youngsters of about 2 to 3 years of age, where it's pedal along using your feet, although I might be mistaken on that. But lovely livery if so, my first little car style livery. Comes on through there right now. This might be his first rallycross experience, but he's not showing it if he's a rookie, because right now he's doing very well to stay with the leaders. Janos Wenzel in second place here, and Felix Smoggy the leader. Smoggy having taken a joker lap, whereas Wenzel has yet to. Well, Smoggy right now coveting that track position, no doubt about it. However, this could all change as Gareth Ronda serves a slowdown coming towards the timing line, and therefore right now drops back to 9th place. He's still got to serve a little bit more of it, but I think he's burnt off the majority and he will burn the rest, potentially into turn 2 here just to clear it. Andrew Pike, he stays out and he makes his way onto a joker, and in fact as he makes his way now in towards the left-hand kink there, I think that's the first time he's taken the joker, so he hasn't carried as much speed as perhaps he wanted to as he's gone onto the rejoin here, and Pike has lost some of the time he's gained by doing so he will complete what will be his second joker lap very early on, but I do wonder whether he's perhaps regretting the fact he didn't carry as much momentum. As at the very front of the field, well right now Janos Wenzel yet to take a joker takes the lead of this race. Wenzel does seem to be a very quick driver in that number 15 as he comes through turn 1 in towards 2 and 3. Felix Smoggy right now, his fellow countryman behind, albeit the two of them separated by the British driver of Jamie Nuttall as they jump over the leap and roar their way in towards turns 4 and 5. But his top 4 incredibly close, but our leader right now has yet to take a joker, and therefore you would imagine that he does have a bit of an advantage as Venzel. And he started in 3rd place, so where this pace has come from, it's your guess is as good as mine. But I can tell you one thing, whatever he's done between races 1 and 2, he's found a lot of pace in that number 15, and it is right now very well placed. And as he State and Smoggy very close together, as State has takes the inside, their contact between the two of them causes the number 11 to glide. As he rides back into the slipstream now, that's not going to help him, so he decides, go on to your second joker lap, get out the toe, and try to move ahead as Venzel still stays on the race circuit. He does not take to the joker lap, and therefore, even though we lose him for a brief moment there to the ether, he'll rematerialise shortly. Well, right now, Adam State gets ahead, but he will know, or he'll have to guess, that this is going to be short-lived, because Venzel right now has done a phenomenal job, and he still does have a bit of time in his hands. Well, we'll have to wait and see what comes of it. Matt Smith, further back. He's down in 10th place here. The number 4 driver still trying to keep some momentum as he comes on through at turn number 6. He's chasing after Gareth Ronda, but Ronda is gradually pulling away, and Ronda has yet to take a joker as well, as we take a look back at what happened to Paolo Maniti on the second lap. So this was the GLT Esports team driver making his way onto lap number 2, went into turn 1, and as he did so, big lock up there on the rear, and the whole rear of the car just came round there as he unlocked the brakes, and Maniti loses it out, and that's why he's in a lonely 11th place currently. But as we look to Matt Smith, well, he's in a bit of a lonely 10th, as Gareth Ronda is definitely trying to pull away at quite a bit of pace. And also another driver yet to take a joker lap, Bobby Moss here, the British driver, who found himself right in the thick of the fight in the midfield on the opening couple of laps. But now he's let himself fall back a little bit. I wonder if this is by design to take the joker right at the end, as Venzel has taken a joker lap, and well, his lead now stands at the best part of 3/4 of a second. There is Venzel, but he struggled a little bit on this lap. In fact, he struggled massively there, coming through turns 2 and 3. And now it's 4 and 5. Venzel definitely seems not to be having as much confidence later on in his race, whereas Jamie Nuttall seems to be right now ever present, ever threatening. Through turn number 6 they come then, but these two have broken away as Felix Smoggy has fallen backwards, and Adam State, well, he's right at the back of this group, Whipham Racing right now, and I think there's been a bit of an incident that separated them all, because our top 2 have definitely bolted away, albeit Venzel still leading as Nuttall looks up the inside into turn 1, and this is going to be a smooth move, and Nuttall in the end goes on to another joker lap. So he had one more available to him, and well, he's decided to take it now, and I think it's a good call here for the number 8 driver, gets him ahead, and does it give him some breathing room? That's what he'll be hoping for as he makes his way in towards the main lap. And Jonas Venzel, by comparison, yes it has. So Nuttall has in fact gained the best part of 3 seconds there by taking his joker. Venzel's not had the best of laps. Nuttall might have just given himself all the breathing room he needs to lead this race. Adam State a bit further behind, is still chasing after Felix Smoggy for the final spot on the podium. And these two drivers right now definitely pushing each other to the absolute limit here. And we have a replay to explain how State fell back into 4th place in the first place. And here's the replay to explain. As they come into turn number 2, we watched them make the way through, but there's no way through for State. So this will look back in time. He was 3rd at the time, went to the jump. Well, absolutely fine coming off the jump. So it must have been at turn number 4 something went wrong. And, well, nothing went wrong there, and clipped the inside of the tyre barrier at turn number 5, and Adam State went around, but thankfully, due to the fact we do have fast repairs active on the cars, they make the way around, doesn't get punished for it, other than losing a place, and also knowing that he doesn't want to make the same mistake twice. So these drivers right now are definitely enjoying themselves out there, no doubt in that. More to come, we will see. These two drivers still running together, and well, Adam State right now still there with Felix Smoggy. We have had an update, by the way, ladies and gents, with regards to the race format for tonight, and what is going to happen is essentially that because we've had this splitting of the field for our heat races, we are going to be jumping straight to the feature race straight after this, so we should see the whole field together. We'll have to find out, of course, ladies and gentlemen, but definitely a bit of a surprise there. There's a surprise. Felix Smoggy hits the tyre barrier, and then Adam State gets clipped, and they make even further contact, and Adam State makes his way onto two wheels there, decides to do a bit of a ballerina pose, and with the Whipperman Racing driver, I'm not quite sure what you would call that, but I can tell you one thing, it's definitely entertaining, and, well, goodness me, both drivers there in a bit of an altercation, they just about survive it. But from them, well, meanwhile, Vincenzo Stagnito has made his way up into third. The Sim Drivers EU driver avoided all the chaos, and is looking very good as he makes way through turn number 2 into 3. Still got a third of the race to go, however, after this lap, and we can tell you that his pace is not quite that of State nor Smoggy, with the fact that both drivers have proven to be on average about 7/10 of a second faster a lap. So that could mean right now Stagnito may be under pressure towards the end of this one, but we will see, as Bobby Moss still refuses to take a joker lap. And, well, as he makes his way onwards, right now we'll have to wait and see what happens to Bobby Moss, because he's running in 8th place. I think he's enjoyed himself out there, even if it's a bit of a lonely run. Back to the front of the field, Jamie Nuttall has taken the lead this race, and he has cleared Janos Wenzel, who's fallen 4.5 seconds back. I think there's a bit of a story to this one, and in fact there is, because we've got a replay to explain, or have we? And the answer to that is no, we don't at the moment. We'll try and get a replay of it when we can, but Janos Wenzel definitely fell down the order, and Jamie Nuttall made his way ahead. In fact, I think here is the replay of what happened. So this was Jamie Nuttall, where he took the lead and managed to start breaking away. Of course, this is when he went on to his joke lap and he opened up the 3-second gap. And in fact, since then, the gap has just widened more and more, where Janos Wenzel seemingly struggling as he's going deeper and deeper into this race. So my apologies for the confusion there. And, well, that's the way they've gone. But back to live racing, as that is a big error there from other drivers. That was Gareth Rond getting it all sorts of wrong through turn number 5, clipping the tyre barrier and then bouncing into the outside wall. And he's lost the place there to Matt Smith, who's crept on through. So Smith right now still in it to win it, as is Ronda, albeit these two drivers right now fighting for the glory of 9th place. Albeit, of course, to them that'll feel like a win, given their relative pace to each other. So it'll be a good little battle between them as they make the way closer to the finish of this one. But these drivers right now, and definitely look at this, still gets terms of their cars as Wenzel goes on to his second joker lap. He decides now to peel off, and as he does, well, the idea of this is to try and catch up to Nuttall as quickly as he can. As Jamie Nuttall right now definitely has opened up a nice gap. You can see Wenzel in the rear of the picture, but the gap he was able to open after taking his second joker, that gap has stood the test of time. It now continues to hold at 2.8 seconds. So at this point, Jamie Nuttall surely has got everything in the bag, unless he makes a mistake. As is going to be more between these drivers. Well, right now, Wenzel a bit further back, and then we can see Vincenzo Stagnito, the Italian driver. He's not on the picture, but there he is, and the Sim Drivers EU team driver is under pressure from Smoggy and State as they come into the final quarter. Stagnito gets it very wrong there, runs out wide, and here comes Smoggy then looking for the move, but Smoggy at the end gets blocked, goes to the grass, keeps two wheels on the tarmac, so he won't have left track limit, and he's going to look up the inside here into the second quarter. Can he go for the move? The answer is no, as Adam State watches on here, and now this is getting a bit furious between these drivers. They make the way with the jump. Brilliant fight for third then incoming, but of course they've all used their joker laps up, and at this point they've got to get things done on the race circuit as they come through 5 and in towards 6, and well, that is going to be Smoggy. They're going defensive as State looks around the outside. Lovely bit of movement there for Adam State, and he moves ahead, goes round as Smoggy there takes a huge amount of curb and puts the car into two wheels for a brief moment. But goodness me, what a move from Adam State. That's definitely going to be one of the contenders for move of the day here today at the Winton Motor Raceway, as that's a car spin across the start finish straight. 10 out of 10 for the spin. That was Paolo Maniti getting it very wrong, and he gets it pointed back in the right direction. And now State's going to look for a move here versus Stagnito as they roar the way through 2 and in towards 3, and the Italian driver here under huge pressure as we look back for the rear of the number 14. Over the jump they go, but here comes Smoggy looking at the inside of State, and in the end he has to back off. They tries to go for it as the white flag is out for our leaders as they go to a final lap. It is Jamie Nuttall who seems to be in complete control of this race right now, but Stagnito is definitely not in control of third place. He's trying to establish control, but it's much easier said than done. As through the right-hander, turn number 9 they come, and as he glides his way on out, well, the number 14 driver here heads towards the timing line. He's got one more tour of the circuit to go. Can he keep State and Smoggy behind? We will see. But as Gareth Ronda passes Matt Smith there, meanwhile, coming through the final quarters, ladies and gents, for Jamie Nuttall, it was all about using the Joker lap at the right time to take the lead, and after that, he's never looked back, and Jamie Nuttall will take victory here in our second race of the day, ahead of Janus Wenzel, who comes home in second, 4 seconds behind, and then it will be 18 seconds to the third place finisher. But who will it be? Will it be Stagnito? Will it be Adam State? Or will it be none other than Felix Smoggy? Well, in the end, I think it's going to be the Italian driver here. He's been hurried, he's been pushed, but he's not going to back down, and Vincenzo Stagnito takes third ahead of Adam State. Felix Smoggy finishes in fifth in the end, and then it will be Andrew Pike in sixth place for Team TSRC, head of Stephen Hutt, who just finishes behind him, and Bobby Moss in the end. Well, he did complete his Joker laps, and it meant that he came home in a rather solid 8th place. It was a lap down to Matt Smith as it was for Gareth Ronda, and Paolo Maniti in the end will finish this race in 11th place, 5 laps down. Well, goodness me, ladies and gents, what a second race. And with that, well, now we do have all drivers making the way, of course, back to the grid, but we are going to be having what will be a couple of skip-throughs these races, I believe, and we are going to be potentially seeing all of our drivers make the way onto the grid here then for the final race of the day. And in fact, as they do, this is the grid as it stands. Unfortunately, we only have 11 drivers in this one. It's going to be David Barnes and Luca Gentile. They line up on the front row. This is a full reverse grid from the previous race, as we understand, from the previous race that they ran, the very first race of the day. Christian Barker and Byron Forrest the second line up at row 2. William Chandler and Kieran Sharp line up at row 3 ahead of Cash Kolb and Guillermo Hamling. And then we do have Oscar Saristo and Luca Burke on row number 5. And in 11th place, last but not least, was your winner from the first race of the day, Nurtas Bodeston. And that is how they all line up. I believe we are waiting to see what happens in whether this race does go ahead or not. I think it is going to go ahead, albeit Kieran Sharp is not on the grid, so we might be seeing a skip forward here. But the lights are going on, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be surprised if this race does get cancelled. And I think it is going to be cancelled here because of the fact we want to try and get everyone together on the grid for one final race. So the race gets started, but Saint tells me this may be skipped forward as they make the way on through. A few drivers run out wide there. It looks though everybody right now carrying on, and we will get you an update of when we can whether this race is going to go distance. Albeit Chandler right now decides to have a bit of a party on the start-finish line, but I think we are going to be taking a bit of a reprieve before this race, does end up becoming a formal race. I think right now this is being used more as practice time for our drivers in preparation for what will be the race to come. But we'll keep you posted on that, and in the meantime we can enjoy it, seeing our drivers out there giving it their all, as William Chandler right now, oh goodness me, he's up on his side there on the barrier, so Chandler parked up, and well, we will in the end see that car moved on. Surely, I don't know how he's managed to achieve that, but goodness me, that's one way to park your car, and they do normally say you can't park there, sir, but William Chandler has found a way to magically park his car almost out of the circuit. But right now, David Barnes and Asbald Easton definitely enjoying a bit of a battle, as Asbald Easton all over the rear of him. And we're in the way on around here right now. Well, I think Barnes here is definitely trying to stop the tide, but the only problem is that water is going to flow if it was a stream, and Osbald Easton keeping that pressure on as much as he can. And I think trying to get used to running nice and close to the car in front as they come across that timeline and go on to lap number 3. So this race right now is carrying on, at least for now, so we will stay transfixed to it. Again, we've been hearing that this race may be skipped forward, but I don't think it is going to be, so they're going to carry on the racing, and we're keeping an eye on what's happening in the meantime, as Nova Motors esports driver right now definitely into the lead and trying to break away. Meanwhile, Cash Kolb, well, he's on the inside to outside there versus Hamling, makes quick work of the Luxembourgish driver, and now in towards turn number 6 he goes. And the number 1 driver here, we may not be number 1 in the running field, but I think he'll be definitely feeling number 1 after making what was a very smooth move there. Guillermo Hamling, meanwhile, watches on from behind and looks to try and get involved as Colt goes very wide, hits the wall, car goes spinning across the road, and in the end, thankfully, it does not trip back onto the racing line, but he'll try and get that car turned around as quickly as he can, as Oscar Saristo, well, he's battling here with Christian Barker, and in the end, Barker on the inside trying to defend, and well, Saristo is definitely going to have to try and manage this. They make a little bit of contact, but nothing bad of them, and the two fight each other still. As over the jump he goes, and Christian Barker right now falls behind. Does lose that position in the end as we have a driver rejoining. That's David Barnes, who's had a bit of a off. And oh, goodness me, that is Christian Barker having it off there. Getting it wrong, coming out of turn number 5. Car goes spinning across the road, and he drops back behind Byron Forrest the second, and also Saristo and Barnes. So Barker was making the progress, has now fallen back to 7th place. And he might have to do it all again if he can. But Oswald Eston right now after taking the lead. He's going to run away with this one, surely. Luca Burke, of course, has yet to take his first Joker lap. So therefore, he's definitely got some time in hand. But the thing is, will he do it soon or not? Because Oswald Eston right now is looking to be much quicker at this point in the race at least. But we'll wait to see the true times that come out of these drivers now that they're both in clear air and not under pressure to make an overtake. From then we come back to Byron Forrest the second as he completes another run of the Joker line, and there's Barker behind him. So Forrest right now will definitely stay ahead of Christian Barker, but there's still a lot more time in this race as they complete a third. Kieran Sharp's in the pit lane. I think they are trying to work out the logistics of what's going to happen next with regards to the race as things carry on. But as everything carries on here right now, all these drivers definitely staying out there and putting on the show for us, regardless of whether this race is going to be going the full distance or not. And well, we're going to enjoy the race as much as we can. As Forrest there getting into close contact with Barnes and Barker, and well, definitely trying to move forward is the 824 driver, as Barnes and Barker are just watching behind and looking to go on the attack. Christian Barker in particular, I think now that he's got his head back in the game, he's looking to put some pressure onto Barnes, and we're right on board here with the 67. Getting very close there into the corner. And through the right into left, and the Afghanistan international driver here sees Barnes get it wrong, and he's going to pick up the place there. Barnes was pushing a little bit too hard, and well, the British driver there goes around, he gets it turned back around rather quickly. A bit of a frustrating moment there for him, no doubt about it. But as he gets himself back pointed on the straight and narrow, we need to take a look back at some of the moments from the very start of the race, including what happened to Oscar Saristo on the second lap. So this was Saristo making his way on the Joker lap, as he completed it and then rejoined, went a little bit too deep at turn number 6, and in the end onto the grass. The rear left tyre just got carried away, lost grip, and in the end, well, the Finnish driver ended up going around, had to get himself quickly turned back around, but that's how he lost the time in the places. We had this only months ago for Christian Barker on lap number 4. This was Barker coming into turns 4 and 5. He went right into left, but went very wrong in that combination, and it was in the end, well, got all the speed down and just hit the outside wall there as he tried to get traction, and the car went spinning around, but thankfully he was able to get pointed back in the right direction very quickly indeed. But as he did so, meanwhile we had this for David Barnes only months ago, and this was Barnes under pressure at the time for what was at 6th place by Christian Barker. Went into turns 8 and 9, took way too much speed into 8, and the rear of the car completely let go. So therefore we come back to your live pictures. And as we do, we are getting an update from race control as to what's going on. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy the racing that carries on, including Noah Oswald Eston here, right now leading this race by 6.5 seconds over Luca Burke, who has yet to take a Joker lap, whereas Oswald Eston has taken one Joker lap already. And the Slovenian driver here right now in the number 13, definitely, I think, trying to make sure he matches the times of the leader, which he's doing so, to be fair. They're exchanging lap times as if they're exchanging stocks on the share market floor. And right now, can Burke get a little bit closer before all is said and done? That's his plan, but will he be able to put it together? We will find out as he drifts his way into turn number 2 through 3. But right now, definitely a bit of a lonely race. Well, what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we've just had an update because of the limitations of what we're seeing. We are going to be seeing all 3 races play out for our 2 splits of the field here. So it does mean you're in for a treat because you are in effectively, we believe, for 6 races now, whereby we'll be constantly switching back and forth between Group A, which you saw in race 1 and what you're seeing right now, and Group B, which you saw in the previous race or race number 2. So therefore, we've got plenty more racing to come. Unfortunately, it's not an absolutely packed field of 22 cars altogether, but it's 11 drivers in each session. There's just been a slight hiccup with regards to the administration, but keep in mind here, this is our first full rallycross event in the Sim Racing Collector on iRacing, so it's a bit of a learning experience, and we've been caught out a little bit today, but we learn through doing things, as they say, and it's great to see all the drivers out there and everybody giving it their all. But as they do, Well, look about right now, definitely not really close enough to Osbald Eston, but putting a lap there over Christian Barker. And well, there's definitely more to come in this race, no doubt about it, as we do see Guillaume Hamling and the Luxembourgish driver here closer and closer to Saristo. Saristo now starting to feel a little bit of pressure behind him as we look back from the rear of the number 5. We're coming out the corners and on to his next lap. He's on to lap number 12 shortly. And he rolls his way on through. Well, it's definitely going to be right now for the Finnish driver a game of not making any mistakes at this point. And well, as he comes out of turn number 1, you can definitely see a lot of confidence in the opening half of the lap, but it's in the second half of the lap he does seem to struggle a little bit. As we do see them make their way onwards, I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. But as they come towards the end of this lap, well, Saristo getting it together this time around, doesn't make a mistake. And well, therefore, he's going to break open the gap to Hamlin quite nicely now to the best part of 1.8 seconds. And the Luxembourg driver now, I think, has got to try and build up a bit more momentum, although the previous lap he delivered was a personal best, and then Saristo's just gone 6 tenths faster on that one. In fact, over that lap, he's gone 8 tenths faster, and right now, definitely Saristo had a bit of a weak previous lap, but he's now picked everything back up and said, right, let's go for it and not make any more mistakes. Of course, there's a fine line between perfection and mistakes here in Rallycross, and we're seeing that from the number 5 driver as he heads in towards turn number 6. But from them, back to the very front of the field, and such is the lead that our British leader from Nova Motors Esports has, that Osbald Eston right now has lapped everybody up to and including 5th place, so up to Byron Forrest II, and in the meantime, well, Luca Burke is 8 seconds behind, still yet to take a joker, but I think right now for Burke, even if he was to take both of his jokers back-to-back and perfect them, I don't think he's going to be getting close enough to really threaten at this point. I think Osbald Eston has done enough to be able to bolt away. And well, that will come as a bit of a surprise, given how close the two of them were on the opening race. However, it might be because of the full reverse grid format that's just opened up a door for one driver to prove themselves a bit faster than the other, of which our race leader has definitely put himself into that position. But looking further down the order, we do look to Luca Gentile, and the Italian driver here right now, well, he finds himself a bit of company, and that company in particular behind him is none other than what is your 4th place driver of Hamling, who's about to put another lap on him, but he's still enjoying himself out there, and Hamling being a bit patient here as they make their way into that opening corner. And understandably, whilst he wants to get on through, he doesn't want to be too forceful. He wants to be respectful to the driver in front, but it's so difficult here, of course, with so many switchback sequences of corners, and also finding that traction on the dirt road, then to the tarmac. But Hamling will go around the outside here. Oh, it's going to get very close between the two of them, and I think in the end, Gentile's decided to have a bit of fun here, as here comes Cash Kolb. Orbit Kolb as well is a lap down there. And oh, it's a big scramble into turn number 6. And somehow, well, the American driver there does find his way through, does manage to unlap himself from Hamling. And well, goodness me, what a bit of a moment, as directly behind him, that is the car of none other than what is your race leader of Noah Osbald Eston, who's managed to avoid all the chaos and carnage and keep himself nice and safe. So into turn 1 he goes, as we can see our drivers behind still enjoying themselves, albeit the number 7 there is escorted out wide. Hamling right now goes all the way around the outside of Kolb, and Kolb in the end tucks back in. But remember, this is just for lap position rather than track position, as there's contact between the two of them. Thankfully, those boards are not fully rendered, otherwise Kolb, I think, will be taking a lot of polystyrene with him in that car. No such situation there, fortunately, and in the end, well, both drivers there having a bit of difficulty. But as they get it back together, it's a big scramble there in the mid-pack, no doubt about it, as Gentile catches up to the back of all the madness, and our race leader goes on to one final lap of this race, an 18th and final tour of the circuit this time around, and with a 6-second gap to Luca Burke, who has already completed one joke lap, if not both of them. That gap right now, I think, is definitely going to keep Osbald Eston safe, as Burke does go on to his second joke lap. He saved them both for the final laps. He decided to be tactical about it, but the British driver has completely bolted away, and even if that gap is slashed by 3 or 4 seconds, it's not going to be enough. So the number 18 driver makes his way out the last couple of corners, and he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him, but it steps aside, and as he comes through turn 8 and into 9, it has been a race he's grafted from the back of the field, but in the last to first challenge, it's been successful, and the Briton of Noah Asbaldeston wins the race. Oh, goodness me, that's a big knock right at the end there between the two of them. Luca Burt will come across the line in second place, as that was none other than Christian Barker making contact with Asbaldeston. We've still got a bit of time then before Oscar Saristo comes on home in third place, as we have had another Cash Culp come home in 7th off camera, and Luca Gentile come home 4 laps down in 9th, and we've had Guillermo Hamling finish in 4th place, a lap down to leaders almost. But meanwhile, the man who'll finish in 3rd, he's been a bit lonely, but to be fair, he won't be complaining. It's Oscar Saristo here who finishes off the podium with an absolutely clinical drive from 9th. He takes the 3rd place, and it'll be a big smile on his face. Our last finisher of this race will be David Barnes, who in the end demonstrates the fact that the sky is the limit, quite literally. And, well, I don't think the DQ Dave car is going to be coming down anytime soon. I think he's managed to absolutely perfectly point that into the sky. We kind of need him to get that car across the finish line to finish this race, so we might need a driver to give him a gentle nudge if they can to help him out. But otherwise, that is the race complete, ladies and gentlemen. And Asbaldeston ahead of Luca Burke and Oscar Sariso. That is how they finished. But on to then race number 4, or race number 2 of the Group B, and this is how these drivers line up. Goodness, we've got plenty of race there. Palamaniti will take pole position this one, full reverse grid, of course, ahead of Gareth Ronda, with Matt Smith and Bobby Moss on row number 2. And then it'll be Stefan Hutter and Andrew Pike on row number 3, ahead of Felix Smolke and Adam State. Then Vincenzo Stagnito and Janis Venzel on row 5, and your order is completed by Jamie Nuttall. How we only have 4 cars in this grid, ladies and gentlemen, so I suspect that we might be seeing this race. It'll carry on this race, and we'll see all the fighting between them and how far they could go here as well. Everyone else has opted not to participate in this race, and I suspect that is due to the mix-up with the administration. But let's see how our 4 drivers go. I think it's going to be quite an interesting race between them, because they were all closely matched when they did go racing the first time round. So Adam State immediately goes onto his Joker lap, and as he re-emerges, well, he'll take the lead of this race. However, Andrew Pike, Janis Venzel, and also Vincenzo Stagnito are all together here. And Venzel does creep ahead of Pike, at least for a brief moment, but will he stay ahead in the long term? We will see, as Venzel does briefly disappear and then reappears. They're all right now pushing each other. There's plenty more laps to come. As our race leader states, does he go on to another Joker immediately? No, he does not. Venzel decides to go on to a race lap. Meanwhile, Andrew Pike decides to go for the Joker lap here, so he wants to get back ahead immediately. He wants that track position, no doubt about it, the Team TSRC driver. And I think the confidence is now growing, given he's participated in one race, as he will tuck back ahead of Venzel and none other than Stagnito. Well, he's fallen back to 4th and fallen away from Venzel a little bit. And out of turn 6 in towards 7, 8 and 9 they come. And as they do, Will State right now has the lead. But Andrew Pike, well, with no Joker lap taken north of Venzel, you can understand right now, State will be wondering whether this lead is going to be short-lived. We will see. But first Joker lap on the board then for Pike. Venzel behind. Venzel stays on the racing line. So does Stagnito. So all of our 4 drivers now carrying on. And over the jump they go, still pushing each other to the limit here, albeit Adam State right now. I think he's seeing how far he can extend this lead. He is currently the fastest driver on a normal lap. Venzel is 1.5 tenths slower. Could Adam State have turned something around here? Because if so, it would be very impressive, keeping in mind, of course, that Venzel was your runner-up in the previous race. So therefore, the confidence is growing. State was your none other than your 5th place finisher, so it's definitely a close pace between them, but Adam State holding on as Venzel, oh, I think he wanted to go on the Joker, then changed his mind at last moment as Andrew Pike goes for a second Joker there. And, well, I think Janis Venzel perhaps was so transfixed by Pike's car in front, they made the mistake of almost going onto a Joker when he didn't want to. So that was a bit of an error. That's going to open up the door even more for State to pull away. Andrew Pike now will take second with quite a bit of an advantage of 3 seconds over Venzel. But Janis Venzel there making an uncharacteristic error as he now glides his way through turns 7, 8 and 9. And, well, he's definitely keeping us intrigued here as to what's going to happen next. We will see what he's going to be able to do in this race, no doubt about it. But Venzel right now on a bit of a back foot here. And Stagnito, to be fair, not falling away either. Vincenzo doing a brilliant job there for Sim Drivers EU. As he weaves and winds his way through these corners, the Italian is not far off. And no joker taken, he might be able to pressure Wenzel over the entire race distance. But we'll have to see what he can do over the remainder of the race, because there's still plenty more to go. Of course, oh my goodness, and Wenzel up onto his roof, bounces over and rolls back to the barrier. And that was at the apex. The turn number 6 just came in a bit too hot, and Wenzel going sky high. And here's a replay to see all that. And well, ladies and gents, we look at it from an alternative camera angle first. They glided his way through turn number 5 into 6. He went, and you'll see here, just turns in a little bit too soon, hits the barrier, hits the curb, and the car just goes bouncing and rolling on around. And this was the on-board, and for Wenzel, he came through right into left, shifting the gears, working it hard, wanting to play catch-up, putting some mental pressure on himself, turned on in, and there he goes, and the car rolls and lands at the end, does a complete barrel roll, but the German driver gets it back together through the magical power of a fast repair and gets back on the road. From them, well, now we come back to your lead on your live pictures. We're on lap 7 of 18. And, well, these drivers right now definitely continuing on their way, and Adam State's still trying to control this. He has yet to come into his second joker lap, whereas Andrew Pike the same. Well, in fact, Andrew Pike did take his second joker lap. Let me correct myself there. So Pike right now is the anomaly, as Stagnito has taken a joker as well. In fact, I think he's onto his second joker. Wenzel has yet to take a joker at all. Stagnito there clips the inside barrier of what was the joker turn number 5. So the Sim Drivers EU machine right now soldiering on, but its driver definitely, I think, put himself under a bit of mental pressure to close down Pike if he can. I think he sees his target as Andrew Pike in this one. Andrew Pike's target will definitely seem to be Adam State, but the problem is Adam State is extracting quite the lead. I think State is going to be in control of this one all the way to the finish. But as they drift away through turns 2 and 3, and it's definitely right now Adam State's race to control and lead. He's coming towards that halfway point, and the Whipperman Racing driver is the fastest one out there. Unless Wenzel can pull off some magic here, it may be the situation whereby State's going to lead this one all the way to the end. Now, we have had a word in our ear, ladies and gents, with regards to the final 2 races after this, on the presumption that we would have 2 more final feature races, given the fact that we've only got 4 drivers in this group, and I suspect we may have a couple more withdraw after this race, given the fact that, well, this event is going on longer than originally planned for our drivers, and the fact we have had a few retirements from the other group. This may be our last race of this broadcast. We'll keep you updated, but just letting you know there that we're going to cover this one all the way through to the finish, but we may not have the other 2 races that have ended up on our schedule. But there's still plenty of intrigue in this one, as Wenzel has now taken a joker lap, and that's brought him a little bit closer to Stagnito. Still 6.5 seconds to go, but the confidence will now be starting to build, because his joker lap was the fastest that anybody's been able to do, a 39.3 versus Adam State's 39.8. So Wenzel's got the pace. The number 15 driver definitely is the fastest of everybody here. The problem is the consistency, unlike in race number 1 for Group 2, has not worked out at all. And as he makes his way onto the next lap, well, Wenzel right now, he's pushed himself to a limit, and I think in pushing those limits, he's just pushed himself into some enforced errors. He's definitely catched up to Stagnito at a very quick rate, took a second out of him on that last lap, and matched Adam State's lap almost. The Whipperman Racing driver is bolting away from Andrew Pike, you can see in the rear of the picture, and Pike in fact has just set a personal best in second place, a 41.27 to State's 40.74. Across the timeline they come this time, 40.82 for State. Meanwhile for Pike, it's going to be a 41.33, so Pike is definitely starting to hit the limits of his pace in his car. Meanwhile, Stagnito is not quite on the pace either. That last lap was a second slower than both State and Pike, in fact 1.5 seconds slower than the leader. So Wenzel is closing, and he's closing quickly as he sets a personal best of 40.93, but the fastest lap of this race is owned by State at this time. It's a 40.53, so he's got to find another 4 attempts as Wenzel if he wants to give himself what is the accolade of being the fastest driver on the circuit over a single lap, as well as at this point in time. Lap number 12 then comes about, and State right now, well, he's definitely used up another one of his joker laps. In fact, he's used up both of them with that 39.75. Not the best lap, to be fair, compared to what he could deliver, but it does give him a bigger gap to Andrew Pike, who has no jokers left as well. So they both used up those laps. And then Vincenzo Stagnito, I believe, has used 1 joker, as has Wenzel. So right now it's waiting for third and fourth to see what they do with their extra joker if they haven't used it. We know Wenzel has definitely not. Stagnito, we believe, has not as he goes round. Car goes spinning in the wrong direction there. Comes out a bit too wide out of turn number 5. The right-hand side tyres there just not gripping up the way he wanted to, and as he tried to get the power down, well, very quickly that 120 brake horsepower over the 350 kilogram chassis, well, a combination there that was destined to come loose and went a bit too loose in the end, but still he'll learn from that one. Through turns 8 and 9 he comes. As he does so, well, we've had to change it. Hold up a second. Adam State, he's under pressure from Andrew Pike. I think State's made an error over the course of this lap, and therefore Andrew Pike is right there with him now as they go on to lap number 13. So we've got a battle on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Pike is there and on the attack as we jump aboard with your second place driver, the Team TSRC driver right now. Well, even though he's been the slower of the two drivers, I don't think he's going to waste any time putting some pressure on as he pressures himself into going deep there at turn number 7. But Pike right now is literally throwing this car left, right and centre, but he's got to calm down here because he needs to keep the pressure on State. He can't let State breathe as Pike hits the wall and the car goes round there, and Andrew Pike making another error. Well, indeed, an error earlier on in race number 1 of their day, and now Pike's made another one in this one, and suddenly what was a golden opportunity to pressure for the win of the race, it falls apart, and Janus Wenzel is now right there with him, and Wenzel is on a move here as Wenzel now is definitely becoming the fastest driver out there, and well, our leader Sonny are only 2.3 seconds apart. The top 3 as you see them all together on the camera. State has to be looking at his rear view mirror if he had one and realising that it's getting very close. In fact, he does have his driver's side mirrors there, and therefore he'll be able to use those to see who's on his left and his right coming up behind. But for Adam State, this is not the way he's wanted the race to go. He's not got long left as they go to lap number 15. 4 more laps left. But can he hold on here? And has Wenzel used that second joker? That's what we need to know. We believe he has not. In fact, he has now made his way onto it. So as soon as we say he's not used it, he's now going to use it. And Wenzel uses this tactically to try and get ahead. Where is State? There he is. So Wenzel is going to take the lead this race. And well, by absolutely divine intervention here, Adam State right now falls back to second and Janus Wenzel will lead. However, keep in mind, of course, State versus Wenzel. It was State who won the battle for second place in race number 1 earlier on for this group, so therefore Wenzel will know that this is not done. He's got 3 more laps to go and he's got to hold off the fast charging machine behind as we look for the rear of number 15, and State looks so far back at the moment, but understandably, well, if these two begin to fight each other, it's not going to be anywhere near as distant, and also suddenly Andrew Pike may just get himself right into that fight as all 4 of the drivers putting on an absolutely brilliant show. There's no doubt about it. They're all still together here all the way to the end, albeit Stagnito is a bit further back, but he could get involved in this. It's all going to come down to small mistakes, and if any battling does transpire at this point, and State right now, well, he's staying within 6.5 tenths, but he needs to be closer here. I don't think he's got enough right now as they get ready to go onto the penultimate lap of this race and drifting their way on to the run into turn 1. Well, right now, gap 9 tenths. The exit at that final corner, Wenzel is so strong coming out of it. He just has so much more speed, but goes very deep there into 2. State takes much time to line, but Wenzel again, it's the corner exit where the German driver is able to outclass the Brit, and he just has so much more confidence in the rear tyres and the traction that he has, and that's why State's just not getting close enough. So Wenzel has found it. I think that's what he's been chasing all the way through this race. He gets a bit eager there through turn number 6, but look at how he is just controlling that car right now, and Wenzel is literally more sideways than pointing in a straight line at any point in the lap, but that's the confidence he has in the machine. He's not showing off. He's just realising where all the speed is coming from now, and with the white flag waving, we're onto our final lap as Andrew Pike, and a bit of a wobble there coming out the final corner, but he keeps it together for now. So Pike moves onwards. Stagnito, meanwhile, holding on to 4th, but he has fallen away from the leader. So it's Wenzel versus State. Gap 7 tenths here as they make their way to the midpoint of this lap. And all signs are pointing towards the German driver, but is there a late spin in the tail? Well, Wenzel rolls his way through 6, now on towards the tarmac once again. 3 more corners to the checkered flag, and this is going to be an absolutely huge turnaround here for Janus Wenzel. Now into turn number 8, then into 9. State's close, but it's all for naught because Janus Wenzel will come all the way through to take victory in race number 2 of Group 2 here today. Head of Adam State and Andrew Pike will round off the podium with a solid drive, but in the end could not put himself between Wenzel and State, and Stagnito will take home 4th place there for simdrivers.eu with a very solid effort there for the Italian driver, but in the end not quite on the pace of the leaders. And that concludes that race, ladies and gentlemen, and well, with that, we have a little bit of a warm-up here before our next race, but something tells me that we might see the grid go a little bit silent. In fact, we're going to wait to see who ends up on the grid here before we do go racing again. But we're going to take a brief breather whilst we do that, and, well, we will be back to talk to a little bit more about all the racing in due course, as we are going to be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we come on back, and it looks as though in this warm-up session before our final race of today, or final races, should we say, we've got quite a few drivers out there at the moment, so therefore going to keep an eye. Hopefully, we might see all these drivers pulled together. That'd be absolutely brilliant if we could have them all out of the circuit for one last hurrah. And well, see some of our very finest drivers of the day, such as Noah Asbjørnsen, and also there, none other than Jonas Wenzel go toe-to-toe. But we'll have to wait to see what exactly the iRacing machinery has in store for us. As right now, they're all out there just getting warmed up with 3 minutes on the clock. And we've just been checking in with race control with regards to the situation. But definitely has not perhaps worked out the way we've wanted it to tonight. But one thing that can definitely be said is that we had some absolutely brilliant racing. And well, if you are thinking right now, could we have a rallycross series here at the Sim Racing Collective? Definitely something for us to consider going forward, I think. But as we do see that Asbjørnsen leaping his way over the tyre barrier and giving us a bit of theatrics. Oh, Jonas Wenzel right now giving a bit more of a serious face on the 15 driver and keeping it all together. But this warm-up session comes to a close. And as it does so, we'll see what's in store for one final tour of racing. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I suspect we might be going back to our 2 separate races. And if so, we might be bringing this stream to a close. But let's just wait and see what happens. And we'll take it from there. So, ladies and gentlemen, it does seem as though we have got a merge of our grid. So we are, in fact, going to cover this one final race. We're going to bring it all together. We're not necessarily going to... I think we are going to have a mostly full grid here. So, lining up for our final race of the day... Bobby Moss takes pole position ahead of David Barnes. It will then be Matt Smith and Cash Culp, who are together on row number 2, with Gareth Ronda and Christian Barker on row 3. Palamaniti and Byron Forrest, the second line, together on row 4, ahead of Vincenzo Stagnita and Guillermo Hamling. Andrew Pike and Oscar Cerrito are together on row number 6. And in fact, David Barnes goes nice and early there. The rest of the field then decide to go after him, so Barnes is going to get a slowdown, but we do have the best part of 10 drivers here, so we're going to stay with this. We've had to go through that grid quite quickly because we are missing a few drivers, but a few go deep, a few stay on, and well, it's absolute pandemonium once again, but we love to see it, as right now we do have 10 drivers all going in for it. So let's cover this final race of the day, I say, as David Barnes roars his way on around, and right now he's jumped the start, so he has got a drive-through penalty that he's going to serve. I think it's a stop hold, in fact, so Luca Burke is your leader, but we have got a few drivers here who right now will definitely be looking to go toe-to-toe, none more so than Noah Asbjørnsen, as he will try to get involved between them, and this could be 80 laps of absolute pandemonium. But as Barnes leads this race, it'll be Burke who leads eventually, and then we have Cash Colt right behind, as all those drivers have already taken some joker laps. Meanwhile, others have not, but we've got more peeling off there. And as they do, well, that's going to be Adam State, who's now getting right into the thick of it here versus Andrew Pike. And we can see Christian Barker, he's taken to that Joker, and he's going to make his way on around. Through the Joker he goes. Oh, goodness me, takes a lot of curb there. And Barker right now keeps it together thereabouts. Goes a bit deep on the grass. Does he keep it pointed straight? Yes, he does. As Janos Wenzel comes close there to tapping him. And in the end, I think it was a small rub, but nothing more than that. So definitely a bit of a hair raiser. But these drivers right now all pushing it together as they roar their way through the corners. And well, as they come down towards turns 1 and 2 once again, Noah Oswald Eastern is just ahead of Luca Berg, who's putting the pressure on. And in fact, we've had a new leader emerge. The Briton has found his way ahead of the Slovenian driver. But goodness me, if you're saying this is deja vu for the races earlier, you would not be wrong. These two are together close, and Cash Colt, meanwhile, is trying to follow them. But as we can see, Stagnito and also Adam State behind. Keep in mind, of course, that these drivers have gone to their Joker lap for the first time, albeit they've lost out a little bit, as the leaders using that Joker lap earlier have been able to leapfrog ahead. And that's one of the things you can do when you're a faster driver and you do have these full reverse grids, or where you're shuffled into the grid, you can use that Joker lap to leapfrog others in the early stages. It's a tactical call, and it's working out quite well for some. At the very back of the field, we do have Byron Forrest II at the moment. He has moved ahead of David Barnes, who is serving the stop-and-go penalty for the jump start. So right now we have 9 drivers on the lead lap and looking to give it their all, as Andrew Pike looks to try and make sure he gets ahead of Adam State by using his Joker here, and will drift his way out of the Joker line. As he does so for State, he tucks right in behind there. That could not have been any closer if we timed it. As they come through turn 6 in towards 7, State right now are really pushing hard here, and everyone's got the bit between their teeth. Even though this hasn't worked out the way they've wanted it to this evening, credit to all these drivers, ladies and gents. I think you'll enjoy me in saying this, because they are all pushing each other incredibly hard right now, as State looking for a move around the outside. Can't quite find it, and then he's going to have to wait, albeit he decides, no, I'm going to go onto my Joker now. So State immediately pushes onwards here. He wants to get back there at Pike after Pike leapt ahead of him. Now he wants to return the favour, as Colt, Stagnito and Pike, they're all together here, but suddenly State will get ahead just about. So that's a good tactical call there to use his Joker. He's crept ahead as Andrew Pike now, so close to the back of Stagnito. If he's any closer, I think they'd be sharing the same car, or at least he'd be riding on the rear of it and adding a little bit of downforce. Through turn 8 and 9, the gap between them separates out as your leaders, well, Asbjørn Eastern is now starting to fire away, we should say, ahead of Luca Burke. And Burke is watching, he's waiting, but I don't think he's going to be able to find a way into this, as his patience right now seems to be absolutely limitless. But the problem he has is the fact that as close as he can get, Asbjørn Eastern is able to run away just that little bit quicker. Adam State, are holding into third place at the moment. And the Whipperman Racing driver here, well, I think he's just trying to consolidate what will be that last spot on the podium as the fight calms down. But then we do have Pike, Wenzel and Colt together, with Stagnito also get involved. All 4 of them there, gliding their way onto our screens as we come towards the end of lap number 6 already. These laps are going quickly, ladies and gentlemen. And right now, these drivers are looking very good, as Stagnito here at the back of this group is thinking about what's next as we ride aboard the nose. And its nose camera, of course, really giving you a perspective of how close they get to those barriers when they make their way through the rally section, or the dirt section of the lap. Here he comes then after the jump in towards turns 4 and 5, right into left. A bit of a compromise entry into 4. It means he carries a bit less speed into 5, but he does get it pointed in the right direction and eventually. And through turn 6 he goes, and the SimDrives.eu driver here. Well, you can see how tight these lines he's taken. I wonder whether he's just not confident in taking a bigger sweeping line into the corner. Perhaps he's worried about the instability, which is natural to a rallycross car over the rear. These cars are guided by the rear swinging around. Obviously, you point the nose towards the apex, so the rear comes round. That's why we say they drift their way into the corners. But right now, Stagnito, for everything he's doing, I think he just has not got that confidence in the car to be able to take those wide lines, like what you just saw for Cash Culp, who went very deep into turn 2 by design to carry that speed. And Culp is definitely getting quicker here. Oh, as Stagnito hits the wall, the car goes around, and well, the Italian driver there, I think, taking a bit more confidence, trying to follow the American driver, and it didn't work out as Wenzel and Colt are together now. Colt trying to squeeze as well the inside to the outside here through 7 and 8. That's brave to go for that move, just for the simple reason that Wenzel's not going to give way. And up towards the timeline they come, and the Cash Colt racing driver here, well, as close as he can get. I don't think this is going to be forthcoming here. He's going to be a bit more inventive. He's got some difficulty for Christian Barker, meanwhile, who's fallen down the order. I don't know where he's gone. And in the end, I can discern that's on the rudder, turn number 6. So it's got a bit sideways there. As Byron Forrest II gets ahead of Stagnito. Stagnito had a bit of a poor final corner, we believe. And, well, Forrest has now moved ahead. Stagnito tries to get on the inside, but the American driver there proves to be a bit too quick for him, even as he dives wide out of turn number 3, and on towards 4 and 5 they come. So good fighting between these drivers at the moment. Still more to come between them. And your leaders have swapped positions, it should be pointed out. Burke is ahead of Osborne Eston, albeit do keep in mind that Burke has used another Joker lap to do this, whereas Osborne Eston, meanwhile, I believe, still has a Joker lap available to him, unless I'm mistaken. And these drivers have definitely made a bit of a change. And right now, the Nova Motors esports driver, I think we look at this and thinking, how does he close the gap before he takes that second Joker, if he's got one available? And the answer is only he knows, but he'll work towards this as we take a look back at what happened to Christian Barker only moments ago. Now, this was a bit of a nightmare moment for the Afghanistani driver as he made his way through turn number 6 into 7 and 8, where the car completely came loose there. A bit too much eagerness on the throttle pedal, and the car in the end rewarding him with a spin. We then had this Vincenzo Stagnito only moments later on lap number 8. The simdrives.eu driver clearing the jump. Into turn 4 he went, that was fine. Turn 5, carried the speed, but in the end hit the barrier, carried too much speed out the corner, and that's what we're riding on board with when he all got it wrong. Back to your live racing we come. As we do, Andrew Pike enjoyed a little bit of exchange here versus Wenzel. Looks to the inside. Wenzel goes a bit deep. And again, Wenzel just not happy when he's in these high pressure situations. I think he's one of those drivers here in this rallycross car today, the AFI cross car. If you give him a circuit where he's by himself, I think he has got the ability to just extract lap time. But as soon as you put him under pressure, it's not to say he's not a capable driver, but I think something just goes mentally a little bit. It might just be the fact that having to look at his mirrors, it's obstructed his lines. And some drivers are like that, to be fair, where they don't do as well under pressure because they're having to now multitask, looking in their mirrors as well as forward. As Colt there, well, it's a good thing that Wenzel did look forward, because otherwise he would have gone straight into the sideways Colt. The Cash Colt racing driver taking the apex curve a little bit too high at turn number 5. The car went on around, and the American driver now getting it back together as he brings himself back onto the tarmac here, but damage is done, and now he's got to find his way back forward. Forrest versus Stagnito, they're back together. And, well, it does seem as though Stagnito, there were black flag. That will be for track limits, I suspect. And the simdrives.eu driver will have a slowdown, or what will be a stop and go that he's going to have to serve. You have to go into the pits with 3 laps, that being awarded. So if not on this lap, it'll be within the next 2. Otherwise, that will be upgraded to a disqualification for this race. Oh, my goodness, as Forrest there almost goes to the barrier and leaps his way back into the start-finish straight. Well, that definitely could have been a bit of a hairy moment for him there. We have had a return to the lead of Noah Asbol-Eston. Meanwhile, he has retaken the lead through taking a Joker lap. So therefore, normality is resumed. In fact, it wasn't a Joker lap. It was this that saw the change of the lead. So Luca Burke made his way out of turn number 5 in towards 6. Leading at the time, Adam State comes into the scene and taps him on the rear. That was enough to upset him, but that was, I think he was pushed out a little bit wide and carried the speed out the corner, and unfortunately hit the exit barrier there at turn number 6. And Asbol-Eston said, "Thank you very much, I'll take that place off you." And, well, I don't think he's going to be too impressed about that. Well, back to your live racing we come, and we've still got a bit of time here as we look to our leader. He goes on to lap number 15. Not much more left between these drivers right now. 4 seconds is the gap. However, Asbol-Eston has been given a major opportunity with Burke's difficulty. The Slovenian driver right now, I think, was hoping to be able to lead this all the way to the end. State, meanwhile, in 3rd place after that tear, which led to that contact. I think he'll be apologising afterwards, but everyone's learning here today, most certainly, and we've seen how quickly our drivers can adapt to these cars, and also the art of rallycross, in the fact that some of them, I think, will come in as complete rookies, and by the end of this, I think they'll be spending quite a bit of time doing that rallycross races on iRacing outside of our one-off events here at the Sim Racing Collective. I think we might have created some rallycross addicts, or dirt addicts, if we can say. And indeed, right now, I can tell you one thing, State there getting a little bit too eager for turns 8 and 9, clips the barriers on both points, the tyre stacks, and State there now having all that enthusiasm dampened down a little bit, but I don't think it'll be before long before he'll attack it once again. Byron Forrest, well, he finds himself in amongst the madness here, as he's got the race leader overall right behind him, and then you've got Vincenzo Stagnito right in front of him, as Forrest tips to the outside, lets the race leader go, and Christian Barker's in the pit lane, as Barnes drifts his way on past it into turn number 1. I think it's all chop and change as Barnes gets it wrong into turn number 2, and our leaders are making their way there, but Saint tells me Barnes will have moved aside before Oswald Eston arrives at the scene of the incident, and I think he might be absolutely fine coming into turn 2, as Barnes has got himself turned around, and Oswald Eston is able to avoid a potential banana skin. But as we do see Luca Burke a bit further behind them in the rear of the picture, they're all together here, albeit drivers on the lead lap, splitting in amongst drivers who are a lap or more down. It's a bit crowded, but right now no change in the overall leader or risk of change, as Andrew Pike in 5th place continues to chase after Janos Wenzel, and that really has been the story of this race since the very start. These two have been inseparable. Pike has always been within a second of Wenzel, but he's not been able to find a way, the magic ingredient, to get ahead. Wenzel, despite the pressure, has just had enough in the tank to be able to stay slightly ahead, albeit Pike, I think, is huffing and puffing in that car right now, but he's not able to blow down the resilience of the German driver. For one more lap to come for them, as Pike runs all the way to the wall there, seeing how much he can push his limits. And then we look to Oswald Eston, meanwhile, the Nova Motors Esports driver, who right now, well, he's only got 3 more quarters to go here, and after what was a brilliant back and forth in the early stages between himself and Luca Burke, it was an error from Burke that saw Oswald Eston retake the lead, and after that he's never looked back, and in the feature race finale of the day, Oswald Eston takes victory here ahead of Luca Burke, who finishes in 2nd. There you can see Burke just behind, and between the two of them, Stagnito, who finishes a lap down in 7th. Adam State will complete the podium there, as he does find a parts car to knock into the back of, and then Janos Wenzel will come at home in 4th place, hold off Pike to the finish as Andrew Pike spins his way across the line in happiness and frustration in equal measure, I suspect. And then it will be Cash Culp, who comes home in 6th place, does a 360 across the line. Brilliant work from Culp there to take 6th. Just missed out the top 5, but he'll be happy with that. And with that, ladies and gents, we have one more finish of this race to be confirmed. It will be Christian Barker, but he is in the pit lane, so he will be classified as 7 laps down, and that's how his race will end. As a couple more drivers make the way to the finish, but that concludes our racing here today at the Winton Motor Raceway. And goodness me, what a collection of races we have had. And, well, in the end, it has ended on Noah Oswald Eston proving himself to be the fastest of them all here in the Sim Racing Collective Cross Car Shakedown, ahead of Luca Burke and Adam State. And those final results are up on screen. There'll be no stewards inquiries for these, but this is how your final 16 drivers who made it into the feature race finale will finish. Albeit we didn't have all of them make the way to the grid. We had to discount length downwards as Bobby Moss, Matt Smith, Gareth Ronda, Paolo Maniti, Guillaume Hamling and Oscar Tharisto opted not to start the race, but Noah Oswald Eston in the end taking victory for Nova Motorsports Esports ahead of Luca Burke, the privateer, by 3.5 seconds, and then Adam State 3rd for Whipperman Racing ahead of Janos Wenzel, who took 4th. Andrew Pyatt there held off by 4 attempts at the finish line, and he completed the top 5 for Team TSRC. Cash Culp Racing's Cash Culp finished in 6th place, then the number 1 driver, and he was ahead of lap down finisher Byron Forrest II, his fellow countryman there in 7th place. Vincenzo Stagnito was a lap down as well for simdrivers.eu in 8th, and then we did see 5 laps down but classified as a finisher on the road, David Barnes, the privateer, and it was a mid-race retirement for Christian Barker, who was your last classified finisher in 10th place. So that concludes all the racing, ladies and gentlemen, and well, with that, it does mean that we bring this event in Australia to a close. But what an event it has been. Not quite the way we expected it to work out, but I think you'll agree with me that it delivered some absolutely brilliant racing. And with that, with the circuit falling silent, it's almost time for us to fall silent as we now begin to wrap up. So thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Sim Racing Collective and how you can be on the grid with us, not just for one-off special events like today, but also for our regular series which we run on a weekly basis. Well, for all that and more, we definitely recommend firstly you check out our official website, and that is at www.tsrc.club. And in terms of our website, it appears on the screen now, and well, if you want a nice, easy website to navigate to get to the heart of all the information on all things TSRC, look look no further, because right in the centre is the beating heart of the community, which is the official Discord. Join that, and it is the easiest way to get yourself affiliated with the admins, other members of the community, and get yourself on the grid. On the left-hand side are all our socials, from SimGrid all the way through to the Discord and Twitch. On the bottom, we have all our partners and affiliates, and at the very top, we have our additional articles, including our news and rules. And of course, you need to read the rules before you can go racing. But if you don't want to necessarily go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, well, the number one place to go to would be our Twitter, and follow us there at twitter.com/TSRC_official. We can stay up to date all the latest news and announcements from the Sim Racing Collective. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our partners and affiliates, which includes Motorsport UK's esports division, SimGrid, Coach Dave Academy, and Abruzzi Simulation of Motorsport. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, what's in store for next time? Well, we're not quite sure what other one-off events we have planned, but do stay tuned for plenty more racing at TSRC in 2026, because a new season of iRacing is almost upon us. We're currently in week 13 for the final season of 2025, but next week we go into the 2026 season 1, and with it, of course, we go into our season finale of our GT4 series, Season 3, which is due to conclude coincidentally in Australia at Mount Panorama Raceway. Tune in for that next Monday on this channel. That will be on none other than Monday the 15th of December. And after that, we have got plenty more in store and planned for early 2026. So don't be afraid when we might have a brief pause in the racing over Christmas, because there's plenty more racing to come in 2026, and there are plenty of opportunities for you guys and girls tuning in to get on the grid or catch all the racing action on a weekly basis. But until then, we've been the Sim Racing Collective. I'm your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX121 or Britain as Fit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.